I know I said I was going to discontinue TV fails, but then I realized I don't want to. I like these. So I'm changing the definition a little. For Irving Zoo, a TV fail is a show, preferably a half-hour show, and ideally a superhero show, but that's not a requirement, that didn't make a full season. Case in point, Sealab 2020 got to episode 15. This one is a viewer request. I do try to take requests as much as I can, but as you know, the way I do this, it takes a little while to get through a series. Even so, keep the ideas coming. This is one I had never heard of, so I get to explore something new. Another one I'm considering is the 1974 Planet of the Apes series. That made a whole 13 episodes. And then there's Barbary Coast from 1975, an 1890s detective show set in San Francisco. Even the star power of William Shatner couldn't get that one past 13 episodes. Feel free to help me add to the list. While we're doing that, let's check out Sealab 2020.
Ready, Ed? After you, Dr. Williams.
The cast reads like a guest list of people we've seen before. Dr. Williams is the legendary Ross Martin, and Ed is Ron Pinkard, whom we saw in episode 14 of The Girl with Something Extra. There are loads more, and I had trouble deciding if I want to mention them all at once after they appeared or discuss them as we go. I decided on as we go. They're going out to do whatever it is they're going out to do when they encounter this guy. Some sharks are harmless. Others won't bother you if you don't bother them. I got to swim with that kind of sharks the last time we were diving in Honduras. And then there are the kind that just don't like you. Which category is this gentleman?
Earthquake!
Okay, I never saw a shark of any kind that could do that. They head back to Sealab to take stock of the damage there. But in a deep crevice, some worse damage is happening. We don't know what kind of waste it is, but we can tell it's toxic. And so far, nobody knows.
No sign of damage.
On the outside. Let's find out what happened inside Sealab.
I know that guy in the background is supposed to be picking stuff, but to me it looks like he's going, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is.
Damage reports coming in, Captain Murphy.
You're just in time, Paul.
Punch in reactor, Sparks.
Reactor room.
Damage report, please.
Power output normal. Temperature normal. But something may be wrong.
What is it?
We're getting a higher than normal radiation count since that quake. The meters say it's coming from outside Sealab.
How does that constitute a problem with your reactor? Last I heard, it's inside.
Good morning, Captain.
Morning. How did the kids take that quake?
Just fine. As a matter of fact, we were studying geology when it happened.
The intro forgot to tell us there are children here, too, complete with a computerized school.
Ask your grandfather if he'll let school out early because of the earthquake. Not me. Why not? Go on, Bobby. He's your grandfather. Not while he's on duty, he's not. When he's on the bridge, I call him Captain.
We know both of these kids. Bobby is voiced by Josh Albee, whom we saw in Secrets of Isis. Sally is Pamela Ferdin. If you saw The Flying Nun, you might remember Sister Shapiro. That's her.
Al, Gail.
Here, Doctor.
Al, what kind of readings are you two getting out there?
Above normal and climbing slowly.
Gale, does it seem to be stronger in any one direction?
The way these currents are shifting since that quake, Dr. Williams, there's no telling.
Hal is Jerry Dexter, the voice of Aqualad in the Superman Aquaman Hour. Gale is Ann Jillian. I couldn't find anything we've seen her in before, but most Americans have heard of her and her 1985 battle with breast cancer. Around this time, she was doing a lot of voice acting, even though she had the chops as a regular actress. Beautiful, vivacious, and incredibly talented, she played Mae West in a movie, was one of the Tentresses in Mr. Mom, had her own show, and starred for a while in the hit series It's a Living. A couple of years after her double mastectomy, she made a movie about the whole ordeal that was, pardon me, gut-wrenching. It persuaded my young, healthy wife to do regular self-exams. Words fail me to say how thankful I am for that. At times, it'll sound as though Gale is the second-level one in this team, but most of the time it's obvious that she's equal to anybody else in the place. But equal or not, they still can't find the source of that radiation. Captain Murphy orders all divers to have radiation detectors for now. There's something we still haven't learned not to do.
Dr. Williams says you gotta wear these.
Your mother told us about it in school. But where's the radiation coming from?
We don't know, Bobby. It could be from radioactive waste dumped into the sea back in the 70s.
We don't do that anymore, do we? I mean, now that we know better.
You're sure about that? We knew better in the 70s, but we did it anyway. The kids are heading out to help plant kelp. Maybe that's what that guy was doing, pointing at the ones he planted. There's a plant, there's a plant, there's a plant, there's a plant, there's a plant. We won't talk about the fact that kelp doesn't go in the ground. It has a network of root-like tendrils that wrap around a rock or something else solid, creating what's called a holdfast. It does what its name says. But you never know. In the far distant future of 4 years ago, maybe they developed a kind of kelp that grows out of the dirt. I don't know why you'd want to, but who knows what future generations will get into their heads.
Where's your compass?
Being fixed. You think it's okay to dive without it?
No, 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 no. Unless the only place you're going is that pool in front of you, no. Do not dive without a compass. Billy says he has his, so that should be good enough. Again, no. If something happens to his, you have nothing. And trust me, it's so easy to get your directions geefled down there, anybody can do it. And when it happens, trust your compass. The fact is, your compass ranks just behind your life support gear in importance. It will save your life. They're going out with only one, and Ed is going to stand there and let them.
Hi, Mr. Niles.
Hi, kids.
How's the kelp growing, Mr. Niles?
18 inches a day when these roots take hold. Then we'll have the darndest underwater forest you've ever seen.
Kelp's the fastest growing plant in the world.
Okay, they are setting down plants that have established small holdfasts. I withdraw what I said about the distant future.
It'll be floating on top soon. Then we can harvest it.
Wow. It's hard to believe this stuff's used in ice cream and medicine and...
Hey, you two, we need some help.
You can harvest it before that, and even when you do, it'll still reach the surface before you can stop it. Swimming through a kelp forest is like nothing else you'll ever do. Right now, their forest is about 8 inches tall, but give it 3 weeks, maybe less. Then it'll be super easy to get lost in it.
See those pesky sea turtles? They're eating my crop. Now how about chasing them out of here?
Come on, Sally. I'll show you how to get rid of those turtles. Just lean the way you want to go, like riding a horse.
There's another thing we've learned we shouldn't do, and people still do it anyway. It does serious harm to the turtles. Just hands off. And by the way, if I'm correct about those, that kind of turtle doesn't eat kelp anyway, it eats small crustaceans. In fact, I couldn't find any type of turtle that eats kelp. They prefer grasses and smaller seaweeds. The kids are having fun, but they aren't paying very close attention to where they are.
Hey, Bobby, it's getting late.
Just a few minutes more.
But we're supposed to be back before dark. Come on, Bobby. It's time to go back.
Okay, only which way is home?
Don't you know?
I'm not really sure.
I think, well, check your compass.
Oh no, we're over a magnetic field.
So move away from it. This is why everybody should have one. Not all compasses are affected by such things. But Bobby thinks he knows the way anyway.
First we've got to think. That's what Grandfather says. Underwater, you think first, then you act.
Start thinking.
If I remember right, the sun and the Sealab should be behind us. Can't tell where the sun is.
It's just too dark to tell direction without a compass.
We don't know how deep they are, but if they can usually see the sun from that depth, they aren't too far down. Little Jamie said it takes 2 days for them to decompress so they can surface, but that'll be because they've been down here a very long time. In fact, Ed was hinting that Jamie was born here. That means if the kids were to surface, they'd get so bent they'd die in minutes. Probably shouldn't do that in a kids' show.
Let's see how much oxygen we have left. About an hour if we take it easy. How about you?
A little more than an hour. Hey, how come I have more? We both started with full tanks.
Girls use less oxygen. They've got smaller lungs, and they metabolize oxygen better.
I'm 6 feet tall. My wife is 5'4". We're pretty evenly matched now, but in the early days, she always used her air faster than I did because she has bigger lungs, according to Bobby. It has nothing to do with size, weight, or any of that. It has to do with effort. How hard are you working down there? When I watch the divers in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, I get tired just looking at them. They flail their arms around as though they're swimming on the surface, and that'll not only wear them out faster, it uses air faster. Those huge fins on your feet are there so you don't have to do that stuff. I heard about a fellow in Jamaica who was talking to a diver we used to know. She asked him why he dove. He answered, "Because I'm a lazy man. It's a lazy man's sport." He's not wrong. The slower and gentler you move, the more you see, and the longer you can stay there to see it. Bobby wants to be the man, the leader, so I don't doubt he's kicking and pushing a lot harder than Sally is, so he's using more air. How has nobody told him about this yet?
Bridge, reactor room, amber alert. I say again, amber alert.
Reactor, this is Captain Murphy. What's happened?
Radiation's counting in the amber zone, sir. Just now, following that last aftershock.
And the kids are lost in it. The alert goes out, divers head out in their scooters to bring everyone back to Sealab. They have several operations going, so it'll take a while. Captain Murphy is quietly frantic about his grandson, so Paul will take their sub and go look for the kids.
Thanks, Paul. I guess you know how I feel about that boy.
Why don't you tell him sometime, Mike? Wouldn't hurt you, or Bobby.
Wrong, Paul. He's a man's man. If he says something like "I love you," his doodinkle will shrivel up and fall off. Paul picks up Hal and Gail and heads off to search. Mike's voice is our old friend John Stevenson. We've seen him in several Irwin Allen shows, among other things. That near-harsh baritone is perfect for the captain.
Hey, look at that. We must be close to that radiation. It's coming from that direction. Here's our chance to find it.
Bobby, no. You know what that radiation could do to us.
We'll only be exposed for a second. It's okay.
But we're running out of breathing mixture.
But if we find the radiation, we could save Sealab.
It was unnerving enough when he was trying to be the rough, tough dude rescuing the poor, lost waif of a girl. Now I'm afraid he's seeing visions of hero parades and medals. They locate the barrels and mark the hole they're in. Now may we get back to where there's a little more air available?
Bobby! Look! A barracuda! We're trapped!
One particular kind of barracuda can grow to about 5 feet in length. Most barracudas are like the last one I saw in Belize, about this big. They can be kind of nasty, but usually only to other fish that look good to eat. They need a way to scare it away.
We'll give him a shot of bubbles.
But our tanks are running out.
We've got to. You've got the most left. Do it.
That's not going to scare the barracuda or anything else. The way you do this is you wait for it to get close to you. Then you hold your rag out like this and hit this button. That's a purge valve. If you somehow get water in your regulator or something doesn't seem right, you hit that. It sends a huge puff of air through the regulator and blows any impurities out. It's also quite loud and sudden, and that's what you need. Wait until he's close and blast it into his face. I would demonstrate, but I don't want to terrify my co-host. Regardless of that, the bubbles do something to the barracuda that convinces it to be somewhere else, and they resume the journey.
Bobby, I'm out. I'm going up. I've got to breathe.
No, wait. We'll buddy breathe.
Buddy breathing is a thing in diving, although almost nobody does it anymore. Today we have a second regulator within reach, informally called an octopus, and if your buddy needs air, you give them that. I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but when my wife and I were doing a fish count in Catalina with Reef, a nationwide conservation organization, I was jammed up against some rocks trying to peek into a crack and count some sea urchins. This mouthpiece part came loose, and this part that supplies the air just fell off. Suddenly, I had a mouthpiece attached to nothing and no air supply. I tried to reach my own octopus, but it was jammed up against the rocks with the rest of me. My wife was right about here, and I could see her octopus plainly, so I grabbed it. If I had had to try to communicate something like buddy breathing, I probably would have drowned. Oh, and one other little bit of trivia. Sally went like this. That's been the universal diver sign for I'm out of air since the very beginning. Somebody did some research for this show. I have to keep reminding myself that this is 1972 research, so some things are going to be a little out of date, even though we've tried to make it all look more futuristic.
I think I see. It's them. It's the kids.
Move in fast, Hal.
Dr. Williams, we found it.
Found what?
Where the radiation's coming from.
We really did, sir. You see, some old canisters of radioactive waste are falling apart down below the seamount.
And there's a chance that more of them can bust.
Now, slow down. Tell me exactly what happened and where.
I believe they just did. They guide the sub to the barrels. Hal has an idea.
We could drop those drums into the trench and then start a sand slide to bury them.
With this load and low batteries, I don't know.
I can do it.
You're the pilot.
And that's what he's going to do. Grab a barrel, pile it here, grab another one, pile it there.
This had better work. That stuff's gonna stay hot for a couple hundred more years.
Within this world, I'm sure by 2020 we had come up with something better, but Hal doesn't have access to any of it.
Too much. The whole cliff's giving way.
As long as you get your little heinies out of the way, that's not a bad thing. It's more material to bury the drums. He said the bottom is 14,000 feet in that trench, so between that and several tons of dirt and rock, the radioactive material should be contained.
We really learned a lesson yesterday.
That's for sure. Never go diving unless you tell someone where you're going.
And don't ever get caught out after dark.
That's very good, but you missed the big lesson.
What's that, Dr. William?
Always remember, we live in a dangerous environment, and the safety of all of us depends on each of us.
Also, don't go diving without a working compass. This is so 70s, I probably could have told you what year it was without looking. Environmental damage, important lessons, little to no violent action, not even when a big barracuda attacks. We're still not totally sure women are equal to men, but we're getting there. When she ran out of air, Sally was close to panic, but it wasn't a 60s type big strong boy has to save weak little girl. She expended a lot of her air getting rid of that barracuda, and trust me, when you're down there underwater and you run out of air or something in your equipment fails or some other thing happens so you can't get air, panic can be a real possibility. Bobby handled it beautifully. Hold on, stop and think, and then we'll share air. Whoever wrote this was probably a diver. There's a lot of genuine stuff here. So I think I'm going to enjoy this series. And considering the way some other shows in the past have so butchered the concept of scuba diving, a Saturday morning cartoon that made the effort to be as authentic as possible is a breath of fresh air. Okay, that was terrible even for me. Established. Aren't paying. How did I lose that? All compasses are. Good grief! How did that? To be the roof. Nationwide. Don't skip words.